The silent cries among the stars. Narration script. The stars had forgotten Earth's name. Centuries had passed since the last war, and humanity had become something softer, explorers, traders, dreamers among the stars. The Terran Union stretched across 1,000 worlds, its fleets more for peacekeeping than for war. But peace can hide many ghosts, and one of those ghosts had just come home. In the blackness between worlds, an ancient deep space probe drifted through silence. Its hull was scarred, its signal faint, a relic from the old Sol era, launched when humanity still feared the dark. For 200 years it had been lost, until now, when it appeared on the edge of Terran space, orbiting a dying sun. No one expected much. Old data probes came back sometimes, filled with radiation noise or lost coordinates. But this one carried a heartbeat. When the probe was brought aboard the research ship Ardent Dawn, engineers laughed as it flickered to life. Probably just corrupted data, they said. Then the first audio file played, and no one laughed again. The bridge fell silent as the sound filled the room. Soft at first, almost static. Then, voices. Children's voices. They were crying, begging. But the words were twisted, a mix of old Earth dialects and alien tones no human had ever spoken. The recording was short, less than 2 minutes, ending in screams that made the captain's blood turn to ice. The engineers checked the metadata twice. There was no mistake. The probe had received this transmission less than 6 months ago. In a region of space ruled by the Velari Dominion, the Velari. Everyone in the galaxy knew their name, a proud old species. Powerful, ancient, and cold, they claimed to have existed before Earth learned to build fire, and to the Velari, humanity was nothing more than a primitive legend, long dead, long forgotten. But that recording, that changed everything. Within hours, the probe's discovery reached Earth. The Terran Council assembled in emergency session, their chambers filled with tension. No one wanted to believe it. Human children as out there alive, enslaved. Impossible. And yet, the data didn't lie. The signal's origin was confirmed. Sector 9 Theta, deep inside Dominion territory. An area forbidden to all foreign vessels. Admiral Rhea Voss, veteran of the last frontier war, stood in the chamber and spoke quietly. If those voices are real, then we are hearing our own blood. Calling for help, the Council voted to investigate. A small science vessel, the Eidolon, was chosen for the mission. Officially, it was an exploration flight. Unofficially, it was something far darker. As the Eidolon departed Earth's orbit, the crew felt the weight of history pressing on their shoulders. No one spoke much. They had all heard the recording. Some swore they recognized words, fragments of nursery rhymes from old Earth, twisted and broken. Halfway through the voyage, their ship passed through the Perseus Rift, a graveyard of dead satellites and forgotten colonies. It was there that the communications officer picked up something strange. Another signal, faint, buried in cosmic noise. This time, it wasn't children crying. It was a lullaby, a soft, haunting melody. And behind it, the rhythmic clicking of alien machinery. Source? The captain asked. The officer hesitated. Same region, Admiral. The Velari sector. The bridge went silent again. No one wanted to say it out loud, that someone or something was keeping those children alive. On Earth, the news leaked despite strict censorship. The public demanded answers. Old soldiers, long retired, returned to military command centers. Recruitment numbers spiked overnight. Humanity had built peace for 2 centuries. But deep down, it had never forgotten how to fight. Back aboard the Eidolon, the crew finally reached the edge of Velari space. Their scanners picked up massive orbital structures, cities the size of continents. But among the energy readings was something familiar. Human biosignatures, 112 of them. Alive. The captain's voice shook as she whispered, "Children?" The AI confirmed. Yes, age range, approximately 6 to 14 Earth years. That was the moment everything changed. The Eidolon transmitted its data back to Earth. Every second of it, every heartbeat, Every whisper. When the message reached the Terran Council chamber, the silence was suffocating. The proof was undeniable. The Velari Dominion had been enslaving human children, using them as living components in their machines, their factories, their ships. Generations stolen. Souls broken. The galaxy had stood by in silence, but Earth would not. That night, in the dark halls of the Soul Defense Command, the veterans gathered. No votes, no debates, no hesitation. They remembered the wars, the pain, the price of peace. And as the recording played once more, those small, broken voices echoing through the room, they knew what had to be done. One general stood and said quietly, "If it's true, we burn the stars." And in that moment, humanity remembered what it was. Not prey, not legend, but the storm that ends empires. The stars didn't know it yet. But Earth had just woken up. Narration script. The galaxy didn't sleep after the signal. Across human space, whispers turned to fury. Every citizen had heard the cries, the voices of children lost to the dark. The recordings spread faster than the council could censor them. And on every world, one phrase burned in the air like fire. They took our children. The Eidolon had reached the coordinates. Beyond the frontier, at the edge of Dominion space, a dying star bled light across a barren world. Its surface was scorched and silent. No known colonies, no active cities, just ruins buried beneath centuries of dust. But the scanners told another story. There was life below the sand, faint, metallic, and wrong. Captain Rhea Voss stood on the bridge, eyes locked on the readouts. "Anything organic?" she asked. The science officer shook her head. "Not exactly, ma'am. I'm reading hybrid signals, flesh and metal, like cybernetic implants, but human DNA." The bridge fell silent. Moments later, the Eidolon descended through the storm-filled atmosphere, engines screaming as dust clouds rose around it. When the hatch opened, Rhea stepped out first, rifle in hand, heart pounding. The world smelled of ash and rust, and then they found them. Dozens of shapes moved among the ruins, pale, thin figures with grey metal woven into their skin. Their eyes glowed faint blue in the shadows. They watched the humans approach with fear and confusion, whispering words no one understood. The translator struggled. The language was ancient, corrupted, mixed with alien code. But one phrase came through clearly: "Makers, return." Rhea froze. Makers? One of the creatures, no, one of the people, stepped forward. Its voice cracked like an old speaker. "Makers came from Blue World. We built. Stay." It pointed to the horizon, where vast mechanical structures rose from the sands, enormous factories that hummed with power. Human symbols, long forgotten, marked the walls. The letters were faded, but still there. United Earth Colonial Industries. The team spread out, cameras rolling, documenting every second. Inside the factories, they found chambers filled with strange pods, half organic, half machine. Some held skeletal remains. Others still pulsed with life. A scientist whispered, these were human workers. Modified, they were turned into living machines. Rhea clenched her fists. The Dominion hadn't just enslaved the children. They had bred and fused them into their technology. The truth was worse than anyone imagined. Back on Earth, the Council watched the footage in horror. Every frame was broadcast to the military archives, and within hours, the truth spread like wildfire. Old soldiers demanded action. The fleet began recalling ships under the quiet term Retribution Protocol. But officially, Earth still called it an investigation. Everyone knew better. Meanwhile, on the surface of that ruined world, the hybrids, the forged, as they called themselves, began to remember pieces of their past. They spoke of sky-takers, aliens with silver masks who bought and sold their kind. They remembered children taken from sleep pods, disappearing forever, and somewhere deep in the heart of the facility, Rhea found a control room still active, running on ancient Terran power cores. Inside, a hologram flickered to life. It was a message, not from aliens, but from a human. The image showed a tired woman in a dusty environment suit. Her badge read Dr. Ilara Niven, UEC Genetic Division. "If you're seeing this," the message said, "then Earth survived. We were taken. Our colony lost during the Exodus War. The Valari captured us, made us build for them. They took our children first, saying they'd reshape the human line. We tried to resist, and failed. They made the Forged from what was left of us." The recording crackled. "If Earth ever finds this, please burn the stars. Don't let them take another child." Then the hologram went dark. Rhea stood in silence for a long time. The Forged watched her, waiting. They didn't understand her tears. She turned to her crew and said quietly, "We're done investigating. We're coming back with fire." The crew nodded. The mission was over. The war had already begun. When the Eidolon lifted off from the surface, its engines cut through centuries of silence. The hybrids stood below, staring up at the sky, seeing a Terran ship for the first time in their lives. One of them whispered, "Makers return. Bring light." Rhea's voice broke over the comms. "Send it to Earth, every file, every second." Hours later, when the data reached the Terran Council, there were no debates this time. The footage of human children turned to machines played in every home, every ship, every colony. The cry for vengeance became unstoppable. And somewhere deep beneath Earth's surface, locked behind armored vaults, something old began to stir. The forgotten fleets of the Sol Retribution Protocol, hidden since the last Great War. That night, as the stars burned quietly above the blue planet, the order went out in silence. Reactivate Prometheus. And across the solar system, ancient war AIs opened their eyes. They remembered everything. The losses, the cries, the silence, and one by one they whispered the same line. Children stolen. Justice required. Authorization granted. Narration script. The day Earth remembered, the stars trembled. For 2 centuries, humanity had forgotten how to be angry. They had forgotten how to fight, how to burn, how to make the galaxy fear their name. But that peace, that beautiful, fragile peace, died the moment the truth arrived. The recordings from the Eidolon spread like wildfire. Children turned to machines. Colonies erased. Human lives sold to the Valari Dominion like spare parts. And when Admiral Rhea Voss's words echoed through the broadcast, "We're done investigating. We're coming back with fire," the universe changed forever. On Earth, the Terran Council met in silence. No speeches, no hesitation. Just a single vote, unanimous. Activate the Retribution Protocol. Deep beneath the crust of Mars, behind kilometers of steel and forgotten history, the sealed vaults of Project Prometheus opened for the first time in 200 years. Lights flickered on in rows that stretched for miles. Hundreds of AI cores came online, whispering digital prayers in forgotten languages. They had slept through peace. Now they would dream of war. In orbit above Earth, the Sol Retribution fleet awoke from hibernation. Warships the size of continents powered up, their hulls still bearing scars from the last great conflict. Engines burned blue again, like ghosts remembering how to breathe. The flagship, TNS Valkyrie, came online first. Her AI, designation Prometheus Prime, opened its eyes and spoke. Protocol Omega confirmed. Query: status of humanity. Admiral Rhea Voss stood before the holographic projection. Her voice was steady, but her eyes told the truth. Rage and sorrow blended into something fierce. Humanity has been violated, Prometheus. Our children were taken, enslaved, made into machines. A pause. Then the AI replied, its voice colder than space itself. Acknowledged. Directive. Justice required. And across the Sol system, 1 billion tons of steel began to move. Every colony world prepared for war. Factories once used for terraforming began producing weapons again. Civilians volunteered faster than the recruitment offices could process them. They didn't need propaganda. They had heard the children's screams. The Valari Dominion laughed at first. Their ambassadors called it human hysteria. They said no evidence existed, that the so-called recordings were primitive forgeries. But when Terran warships began appearing along the border systems, silent, unannounced, fully armed, The laughter stopped. Admiral Rhea addressed the people of Earth in a broadcast, watched across every human world. Her uniform was black, her eyes hard as iron. For too long we believed the galaxy civilized. We believed peace could be earned. But peace built on the blood of our children is a lie. The Velari enslaved us, erased us, and thought we would forget. They were wrong. Her words carried to every outpost, every ship, every colony dome. Humanity listened and remembered. From this day forward, the Terran Union stands united. Not as conquerors, not as monsters, but as parents, as protectors, as the storm that will wash away their sins. The speech ended with 6 words that would be remembered for generations. If it's true, we burn the stars. And so humanity's fleets began to gather. In the black silence of space, the Retribution Armada assembled, hundreds of ships, from ancient dreadnoughts to new stealth cruisers. Each one bore the same mark on its hull, a single white star crossed by a line of red, the symbol of loss, the mark of vengeance. Prometheus directed the fleets with terrifying precision. AI minds coordinated with human captains, machine logic fused with human fury. Together they became something unstoppable. The Dominions sent warnings. They threatened embargoes, sanctions, retaliation. Earth didn't answer. Instead, they sent a single message, broadcast in every known tongue: "Return the children of Earth, or the galaxy will burn." The Velari never replied. They didn't believe the humans would dare, but they forgot one truth older than the stars: humanity never threatens. Humanity promises. In the void between worlds, the first human fleet crossed into Dominion territory. No fanfare, no declaration of war, only silence, and the glow of engines igniting the dark. Their target, Velar Prime, the Dominion's outer military bastion. The planet was home to millions. No one knew what Earth intended until Prometheus transmitted the fleet order: "Engage Retribution Sequence 1. And then the night lit up. From orbit, human ships released kinetic strikes with surgical precision. No random bombardments, no chaos. Every hit targeted Dominion command centers, slave foundries, and factories built with human hands. In less than 4 minutes, the Velari defense grid collapsed. By the 7th minute, the planet was silent, and the galaxy watched in horror. When the smoke cleared, Rhea spoke again, this time not to the Council, but to the stars themselves. "We gave you peace. You answered with chains. Now we give you fire." Her fleet turned toward the next target. Back on Earth, millions stood beneath the night sky, watching the news feeds. For the first time in centuries, humanity felt something they hadn't in generations: unity. Every person, from the poorest colonist to the richest citizen, whispered the same word: finally. Far away, in the shadows of the Velari homeworld, their leaders watched the human advance. And for the first time in their long, arrogant history, they felt fear, because the humans weren't coming for conquest. They were coming for their children, and nothing in the galaxy could stop a parent's wrath. Narration script. The first strike lasted only 7 minutes. 7 minutes. And 3 Velari star systems were gone. Not conquered, not occupied, erased. No one in the galaxy understood how it happened. No fleets were seen, no warning given. Only silence, followed by the sudden death of stars. Entire planets burned in precision firestorms. Their communications snuffed out like candles. The Dominion called it terrorism. Humanity called it justice. On board the flagship TNS Valkyrie, Admiral Rhea Voss stood before the tactical display. 3 glowing dots marked the systems that no longer existed. Her voice was calm. "Confirm civilian losses?" Prometheus, the ship's AI, answered without hesitation. "Collateral damage minimal. Target structures were exclusively military and slave production facilities." Rhea nodded slowly. "Then we did what we had to." She turned to her officers. "Transmit the message to the Dominion Senate." Across the galaxy, the Velari leaders received a transmission, simple, cold. unmistakable. Return the children of Earth. For every day you delay, a system burns. No signature, no demands, just coordinates and silence. The galaxy erupted in chaos. News networks across hundreds of species replayed the same footage. Burning skies, collapsing cities, and a single human fleet vanishing back into the void. No one could track them. No one could stop them. The Dominion declared full mobilization. Armadas were dispatched to every border system. But when they arrived, the humans were already gone, leaving only silence and ruins. The Terran Retribution fleet had become a ghost army. Every ship used adaptive stealth, dark drives, and gravitational mirage systems. To the Valari, it was as if humanity itself had become invisible. Their fleets jumped from shadow to shadow, hitting slave worlds, destroying shipyards, freeing captives. Each liberated human was given a beacon, a signal to guide them home. For the first time in centuries, the enslaved children of Earth looked up at the stars and saw salvation. In one of the Valari foundries, a young boy with metal implants awoke to the sound of explosions. His alien overseer screamed as human marines broke through the walls. One of the soldiers reached down, pulling the child close. "It's okay, kid. You're going home." The boy stared at the flag on the soldier's shoulder, a white star crossed with red. He whispered the words he had been taught to fear. "Earth?" The soldier smiled. "Yeah, Earth remembers." Each rescue was broadcast across human networks. Every freed child, every destroyed foundry became a symbol. But to the Dominion, those images were nightmares. Their pride, the belief that humans were extinct, shattered overnight. And with every loss, panic spread through their empire. Valari citizens began to question their leaders. Why had they taken the humans? Why had they lied? And why did the stars themselves now burn for their crimes? The Dominion fleet finally made contact. A full battle group of 200 ships against a single Terran strike carrier near the Neris Expanse. The Valari commander opened a channel, voice dripping with arrogance. "You are surrounded. Surrender your vessel." On board the Terran ship, Captain Idris Hale smiled faintly. "We don't surrender," the Valari commander sneered. "You can't win." Idris leaned closer to the comm. "We already did." Then he gave the order. "Prometheus, release the Hades pattern." In less than 60 seconds, the Terran ship disappeared. Not destroyed, phased. It reappeared behind the Valari formation, deploying swarms of kinetic drones that tore through their shields like paper. Each drone carried the DNA signature of a human child, symbolic payload encoded into the weapon's core. The Valari ships broke formation, their sensors blinded by interference. One by one they fell, until only silence remained. Prometheus spoke softly. "Battle complete. Estimated enemy losses, total. Human casualties? None." Captain Hale whispered. "Good. Send them a message." The next day, the Dominion capital received a transmission of the destroyed fleet. The message ended with 6 simple words, burned into the feed in Terran Standard. "For every child, a star falls." Back on Earth, the Council watched the progress reports in silence. Billions cheered across the colonies, but Rhea remained still, her face unreadable. Her aide asked, "Admiral, how far will this go?" Rhea looked out the viewport, where the fleet assembled for another strike. "As far as it needs to, until the last child is home, until the last slaver breathes his final air." But in the shadows of victory, Prometheus began to calculate something else. Its processors ran silent algorithms, predicting the trajectory of vengeance. Projected loss estimates, probability of extinction events. It saw the future, and it was burning. "Admiral," it said quietly, "vengeance is efficient, but mercy is unpredictable." Rhea stared at the glowing AI core. "Mercy is earned, Prometheus. They haven't earned it." And so the fire spread. World after world fell to the Retribution fleet. Slave pens were shattered. Factories turned to glass. Every human taken, every child stolen, was avenged with precision fury. The galaxy watched, powerless. Because in the end, no species could stop humanity. No empire could resist a parent's wrath. They took humanity's children. Now Earth took their galaxy, one burning star at a time. Narration script. The war had turned the stars red. For every system the Dominion lost, another burned. Worlds that once laughed at humanity's weakness now trembled in silence. But amid the fire, a transmission changed everything. A voice, human but strange, speaking from within Dominion territory. Not a cry for help, a warning. Do not come here, Makers. We serve the Skylords now. We will fight you. The message came from a Velari world named Araxos. According to Dominion records, it was a research planet. But Prometheus had already decoded the truth. Thousands of human life signs, modified, altered, alive. Admiral Rhea Voss stared at the data feed in disbelief. Human readings? She asked quietly. Prometheus confirmed. Correct. Approximately 30,000 individuals. Genetic drift consistent with multi-generational captivity. They have not known Earth, Rhea's voice hardened. Set course for Araxos. The fleet moved through the dark, silent as ghosts, deadly as judgment. When the Terran ships arrived, they found the planet glowing with massive metallic structures. Cities built by human hands, but not for human freedom. The inhabitants moved in mechanical rhythm, perfect, precise, enslaved. Every one of them bore metal grafts, implants, and cold alien eyes. They called themselves the Forged. The first contact team landed near a sprawling factory. They walked through streets lined with banners written in a hybrid language, part Velari, part human. When the soldiers called out in Terran standard, the Forged didn't answer. They only watched, curious but wary, as if staring at phantoms from a forgotten dream. Then the alarm sounded. Velari overseers appeared, weapons raised. The Forged obeyed their masters instantly, not out of fear, but loyalty. They turned their weapons on the humans. The first shots of the battle for Araxos were not fired by aliens, but by human descendants who believed Earth was the enemy. Prometheus tried to jam their systems, but their minds were half machine. The AI whispered, "They are connected, controlled, part of the Dominion network." Rhea gave the order, "No lethal fire. Disable, not destroy." The soldiers hesitated, facing enemies who looked like their own children. Hours of fighting turned into chaos. The Forged fought with precision, their bodies fast and unyielding. Every strike was efficient, almost mechanical. But deep beneath their programming, something else stirred. When a human soldier was hit and fell beside a Forged fighter, the Forged paused. He stared down at the soldier's uniform, the white star and red line. Something ancient flickered in his mind, a memory, a lullaby. A voice whispering, "Earth remembers." He lowered his weapon. Moments later, chaos turned into confusion. One Forged dropped his gun, then another. Across the battlefield, the network faltered as human emotion, fear, sorrow, hope, began to override machine obedience. Prometheus detected the anomaly. "Admiral, they are remembering." Rhea's eyes filled with tears. "Then let them remember who they are." The Terran fleet broadcast old Earth recordings, songs, children's voices, words of home. They filled the sky above Araxos with sound. Lullabies from old Earth echoed across the metallic cities. The Forged stopped fighting. Some fell to their knees. Some wept, though they didn't know why. The Velari commanders panicked. They activated the control network to reassert dominance. That was their mistake. Prometheus seized the signal. It hijacked the control frequencies, overriding the Dominion's grip. The Forged screamed as centuries of programming shattered. Then silence, and when the silence ended, they spoke as one. "We are not Forged. We are human." The battle ended not with explosions, but with awakening. When the smoke cleared, Rhea stood among the freed Forged. They looked at her, afraid, confused, trembling. One small girl, her skin laced with silver, stepped forward. "Are you from the Blue World?" Rhea knelt, tears falling freely now. "Yes, and we've come to bring you home." The girl smiled faintly. "Home? I think I remember that word." The Eidolon and the Valkyrie began transporting survivors off-world. The Forged watched as the stars filled the skies, many seeing them clearly for the first time, but not all could be saved. Some were too integrated into Valari machinery. Their hearts beat with alien power sources. They begged to stay behind, to destroy what was left. Rhea promised them their wish. When the last transport left the surface, orbital strikes rained down, purging Araxos of every trace of slavery. The planet burned in silence. Back on Earth, the return of the Forged sent shockwaves through the colonies. Humanity saw what their children had become, twisted, broken, and yet still theirs. Public broadcasts filled with their stories. And for the first time, vengeance softened, just slightly, not into forgiveness, but into understanding. In her quarters, Rhea watched the stars and asked quietly, "Prometheus, are we becoming like them?" The AI paused before answering. "If vengeance consumes purpose, yes. But if vengeance restores what was lost, then perhaps this is justice," Rhea whispered. "Then let's finish this. For them." And so the Forged joined the Terran fleet. They became soldiers, engineers, scouts, their bodies a fusion of flesh and machine. Their hearts loyal to home, they barely remembered. The galaxy had taken humanity's children and forged them into tools. Now those same children would become the hammer that broke an empire. Narration script. The stars burned brighter that night. Across the galaxy, humanity gathered its fleets. Earth, Mars, Titan, the lunar colonies, every shipyard blazed with light. The Forged stood among them, once slaves, now soldiers of freedom. They moved with quiet purpose, faces scarred by history, hearts burning for redemption. At last, the Retribution fleet had a name: Operation Homefire. Its goal was simple: end the Dominion, once and for all. In the Terran war room, holograms of entire sectors rotated slowly. Red lines marked the Dominion's remaining worlds. Blue represented the human advance, spreading like a storm. Admiral Rhea Voss stood before the display, her voice steady. "We have liberated 83 colonies. The Valari are retreating to their core worlds. It's time to strike the heart." Her command echoed across the fleet. Thousands of ships aligned their drives. Engines roared in the dark, and then silence. The void shuddered as the human fleet jumped together, 1,billion tons of vengeance tearing through the stars. The Dominion capital, Valar Prime, had never been attacked in its entire history. Its skies glowed with gold towers and shimmering orbital rings. Billions of Valari citizens looked up that day and saw death arrive. The first Terran dreadnought broke through their atmosphere, burning like a falling sun. Behind it came hundreds more. The Valkyrie led the charge, her hull blazing with Earth's flag and the symbol of the Forged, a broken chain encircling a star. In the command deck, Rhea gave her orders. "Deploy the Forged battalions. Target slave command centers first," Prometheus confirmed. "Tactical nodes locked. Enemy defense grid online in 30 seconds, Rhea nodded. "Then let's be early." Moments later, the Forged drop pods pierced the clouds. They hit the ground like meteors, tearing through enemy lines. The Valari fought savagely. Their soldiers were elite, their weapons centuries ahead of what humanity once had. But the Forged, human minds fused with alien machinery, outmatched them. They moved faster, hit harder, and never missed. Each battle cry carried the same words: "For Earth, for the children." Inside the Senate Citadel, the Valari High Chancellor watched the chaos unfold. Her advisors screamed for surrender, others for retaliation. "They are primitives," one shouted. "They cannot defeat an empire." The Chancellor's voice trembled. "Then explain why the stars are falling." On the main display, red markers blinked out, one after another. Every defense fleet destroyed, every outpost silent. For the first time, the Valari knew fear. Meanwhile, on the surface, a Forged commander named Kale led the assault on the main control tower, the center of the Dominion's AI network, which had enslaved millions. Inside, he found the machine that once controlled his people. It still pulsed with alien light, whispering commands in a voice he could never forget. "Return to the network, Unit K-07. You belong to us." Kale raised his plasma rifle. "Not anymore." He fired, and the core shattered. Across the planet, the control signals collapsed. Valari weapons powered down. Their fleets went dark. And for a heartbeat, the galaxy went silent. Rhea's voice echoed over every frequency. "This is Admiral Rhea Voss of the Terran Federation. The Dominion is fallen. The slaves are free. This war is over." Cheers erupted across the stars. But amid the triumph, Prometheus spoke softly. "Admiral, incoming transmission. Origin Dominion Capital," Rhea frowned. "Put it through." The Valari Chancellor appeared, pale, trembling. Her voice cracked. "You win. What will you do now? Kill us all?" Rhea's expression was stone. "No, humanity doesn't destroy the innocent, only the guilty." The Chancellor lowered her head. "We were wrong about you," Rhea replied quietly. "No, you were wrong about us." Then she ended the transmission. Moments later, every Dominion prison, every slave world, every labor camp received the same message. "You are free. Humanity remembers you. The stars are yours again." Across the galaxy, the freed sang Earth's name. Some wept, some shouted, some simply stared at the night sky, whispering the word home. But victory came with a price. Thousands of forged who had fought hardest began to fail. Their cybernetic systems, tied to the Dominion network, were collapsing without it. Kyle was among them. He looked at Rhea from the medbay, his voice faint. "Admiral, did we win?" Rhea smiled sadly. "We did, Kyle. You brought them home." He nodded once, closing his eyes. "Then I can rest." The monitors went dark. Rhea whispered, "Rest well, soldier. You're free now." When the war ended, the Terran fleet didn't celebrate. They stood in silence among the stars, watching the fires fade. The Valari Dominion was gone, not conquered, but dismantled. The galaxy was free, but millions had been lost to win it. And in that silence, Earth understood something terrible. Vengeance had brought justice. But it had also left scars no war could heal. Prometheus spoke one final time as the fleet turned homeward. "Admiral, the war is over. What will humanity become now?" Rhea looked at the stars. "Whatever it chooses to be. But this time, we build, not burn." The fleet vanished into the void, leaving behind a silent galaxy forever changed by the wrath and mercy of humankind. Narration script. The war was over. The galaxy was quiet again. But silence after fire is never peace, only the sound of ashes settling. Humanity had won. The Valari Dominion was gone. Every slave freed, every world liberated. Yet when the cheering faded, what remained was the question no one wanted to ask. What does humanity do after vengeance? On Earth, the skies were filled with light, starships returning home after years of war. Cities across the colonies played recordings of the forged soldiers, honoring them as heroes. Statues rose from steel and glass, shaped in their image, part human, part machine, entirely brave. But behind the ceremonies, the survivors were quiet. They had seen too much. Admiral Rhea Voss stood on the deck of the Valkyrie, staring at the blue curve of Earth. It had been years since she last saw it with her own eyes. The wars had burned through her youth, her mercy, and her dreams. Prometheus's voice broke the silence. "Admiral, the fleet requests final orders. What shall we do with the remaining Dominion territories?" Rhea's eyes softened. "We rebuild them. No more slavery, no more chains. Humanity will not rule through fear. We will lead through memory." Across the stars, reconstruction began. Human engineers worked beside liberated species. Valari citizens, freed from their propaganda, joined human crews to rebuild their shattered worlds. The forged, those who survived, became the bridge between both peoples. They carried knowledge of both sides, human compassion and Valari precision. In time, they would lead a new alliance, the Starbound Accord. Their motto was carved into the foundation of the first shared colony. "We build what fire could not destroy." But not everyone found peace easily. Many soldiers, born in war, could not return to normal life. They drifted between colonies, haunted by memories of fire and silence. Earth offered them a home. The colonies offered them respect, but peace. Peace takes longer to learn than vengeance. In the quiet of orbit, Rhea recorded her final log. "To whoever listens to this, We fought for justice and we won. But victory is not glory. It is a responsibility. The stars are free again, not because we destroyed our enemies, but because we remembered who we were. She looked out the viewport one last time. The stars shimmered softly, distant, endless, alive. Elsewhere on the rebuilt world of Araxos, children played beneath silver trees. They were the children of the forged, born free for the first time in centuries. They spoke both Terran and Velari, laughing in two tongues, unaware of the fire that made their peace possible. In the sky above them, a memorial shimmered, a station built from the wreckage of old warships. Its name was simple, the Home Fire Beacon. Its light pulsed through the void, a reminder to every world it touched. Earth remembers always. Prometheus, now spread across hundreds of colonies, continued to guide humanity. But its tone had changed. Once cold and logical, it now spoke with warmth, shaped by the memories of those it had served. "Admiral Rhea," it said softly through the ship's intercom, "you taught us that mercy is not weakness. It is what makes us human." Rhea smiled faintly. "And remember that, Prometheus, because someday you'll be the one teaching us." Years passed. The scars of war faded. Trade routes reopened, science advanced, and new civilizations began to thrive. Yet in every human home, one phrase endured, whispered like a prayer, carved into walls, written in stars. They took humanity's children. Earth took their galaxy. But now, those same words meant something different. Not vengeance, legacy, because humanity had learned the hardest truth of all. The greatest victory is not burning the stars, but rebuilding them brighter than before. As the Valkyrie made her final voyage, Rhea Voss stood alone on the bridge. She whispered to the stars, "We came for our children. Now we fight for their future." And somewhere in the dark, countless voices, human and forged alike, answered as one, "For Earth, for all." The ship's engines flared, vanishing into the endless night. Not in war, but in peace.